Hello guys, today we're going to continue our series of our wallflowers inspired by the Bridgerton series, specifically when Penelope is talking with Francesca and she's trying to get her to not be a wallflower, but tough things happened and it's always beautiful to be a wallflower. So if you haven't uh, if you haven't seen, I actually posted a very detailed like 3-part video on how to make this specific stitch and how to change colors and how to continue your stitches with using the Tunisian simple stitch. And this is just a tapestry of our this flower that I just forgot. I think it's a balloon flower, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I don't know much about flowers. I just think that they're pretty, they smell okay, and they look wonderful, especially as wallflowers and tapestries. So this is our very first episode of the series, and now we're going to continue with our second episode and now we're going to be doing a purple flower. Purple is my favorite, well, it's not my favorite color, but it's a very beautiful color for a flower. And since this is like the 4th video on flowers, I'm just going to speed through it. If you would like, I do have more detailed videos up on my channel. If you're interested, of course, or not, you can always stay here and watch a time lapse of my my attempt at making a wallflower tapestry inspired by Bridgerton. So as you can see, I'm using a longer crochet hook because I'm going to perform a Tunisian simple stitch. Why? Because I think it's prettier, I think it's better. I just do not understand. Most certainly will be because I do not understand how to go back and forth and hide your yarn when you see regular crochet tapestries. I just do not understand how you go back and forth, especially because you turn your work around. With Tunisian simple stitch, you're always working on the right side of your project, so you always work onto the front side or the right side, and you don't have to worry about hiding your stitches or your yarn or carrying over your yarn or anything like that. For starters, we're going to chain 24, and we're just going to change as we regularly do. And just to make things a little bit more clear, I think it's needless to say that you can always grab a pattern and make it to your liking. I'm actually just grabbing this pattern that I found on Pinterest and doing it as I like, as long as I like, adding in, removing rows or columns or whatever you want to remove or add. Since we're making this sort of, I still do not know the name of this flower. I'm gonna call it a carnation. Kind of looks like one. I wanted to match, of course, my very first tapestry, but I also wanted it to not warp, so I'm adding one more stitch. And I'm actually copying my pattern so I just do not get confused. Within the pattern, you can actually see the colors that you need. I'm not going to be using entirely like exactly those colors, but close to those colors. It's actually a good beginner's guide to understand that if you're making especially if you're grabbing a pixel art such as like this flower, that you can actually create a beautiful tapestry if and only if you can actually identify properly the colors. Even if you actually change the colors, but if you stick to the pattern and you switch out colors, but actually, for example, this Carnation has a more lighter tone on the bottom than on the top. So if you, for example, switch those purple colors to pink ones, if you want to have a beautiful tapestry, I would suggest that you actually switch the colors. For example, if you're going to use pink, that you use the bottom, that you actually follow the pattern. I'm sorry, excuse me if I'm trying to explain this a little more thoroughly, but if you're going to switch up the colors, that you actually stick to the hues or the shades, if you will like. So for the bottom part, if you're going to switch to pink, actually use a lighter pink and then a darker pink, so it actually doesn't distort the image as much as you would think. I'm just, if it makes any sense, I hope it does. You can really just switch out the colors and make it seem like yourself, but if you diverge a lot, it will distort your image and not make it pretty. So just, I would say to stick to the color pattern. For example, if you're gonna create this flower and you're actually going to create those leaves, actually stick to darker greens and then like that lighter green. Again, if you want to change the color of the flower, you can actually do so, but actually stick to trying to create those shades that the pattern already has for you. So enough of my yapping. I'm going to come back because I already lost count of my chains, and I'm gonna come back and actually show you how to finally do your very first row. Okay, so now that we have all of our 24 chains, we're going to work on to the back side of our chains. So this is the front, we're gonna turn it, and we're gonna insert our hook onto these bumps right here, counting this little loop that we have on our hook as one. We're going to skip this very first one, this very first bump, because it corresponds to this very first loop, and we're going to go straight to the next one, inserting our hook, yarning over and pulling through. So as you can see, we're going to keep our stitches within our hook, and we're going to continue to do that all the way down our row. Always make sure you count your stitches once, twice, 3 times, as many times as possible, so that you can actually have the right amount of stitches. And of course, as I said before, this is just a baseline of how I want my tapestries to come out. I think within my first tapestry and this tapestry, it's not gonna be the same width or the same height, but I just want them to be like, I just don't want them to lose the detail that the pattern provides. So as I said before, you can switch colors or remove or add rows to your liking. And then for our Carnation simple stitch, it has a forwards and we have a backwards. So we're going to chain 1. So we're going to grab our yarn and pull through that very first or that very last stitch that we made. And pulling only through 1. That's going to be our chain 1. We're going to grab our yarn and pull through 2 of our stitches. So we're going to pull through that one and that one. And we're gonna do this all the way down our row. So pulling through 2 all the way down this solid color row. And then we have our very second row, and this is going to be like a repeat, not a repeat, but like the way that we're going to pull our actual stitches to our hook is going to be true for the rest of our project. So we're going to pull, or we're going to insert our hook only onto those front loops of our previous row. So only this loop, we're going to insert it onto this loop only. Grab our yarn and pull through, and we're gonna keep it within our hook. So right now we have 3 stitches, always counting this very last one as one, and we're going to do 11 stitches with this background color. And we have our very next stitch, which is a different color. In this case, I am going to be using this darker green, and we're just going to do exactly the same. We're just going to insert our hook, and instead of pulling with our background color, we're going to pull with our very next color. And since it's just one stitch, I think it's a little bit obvious, but if it's not obvious, each square is a stitch. So if you look at your pattern, you count the number of squares corresponds to the number of stitches. So if there's 11 background color stitches, or background color squares, you're going to do 11 background color stitches, and then one darker green, and then the rest is actually our background. So we're just going to drop our green or our green yarn, and we're just going to continue to do what we've been doing our entire row, and just go all the way down with this same color. So now we're going to do our return pass, which is exactly the same that we've been doing before. So we're going to chain 1 onto that very last stitch. We're going to grab our yarn and pull through 2 and 2 all the way down until we reach that green stitch. And now, instead of pulling through 2 or pulling through this stitch and our green stitch with our background color, we're going to drop our background, and we're going to pick up our green and pull through 2. So we're going to pull through that background color and our green stitch, and that's it. We just drop our green color again. Let me just explain this rule a little bit clearer. Whenever you have 2 different color stitches in your hook, you always use that second color stitch to pull through 2. So we have this color and we have this color, and we want this, so we're going to pick this stitch, and we want this stitch to be background color. We're gonna drop our green, pull up our background color, and pull through green and through that very next stitch. And it will be true for the next stitch, because we don't have 2 different color stitches, so we just continue with our background stitch, and we pull all the way down our row. If this is a little bit confusing, I do have, like I said before at the beginning of our video, I do have a more detailed instructions on how to make these tapestries, because look, they're beautiful, they're super clean, they're very, very clean when it comes to like edges. Let me show you one more time this beautiful tapestry with flowers. Like, you can perfectly see the leaves and the flowers themselves. So I just think this is a far superior stitch, just because I don't know how to use the other one. I mean, who does? But you can stick around and watch the time lapse that I'm going to leave, because like I said before, if you want a more detailed tutorial, you can go seek those videos up and pull them up, and you'll have everything that you need, and you can come back and just relax and put this on the background and just look at me how I make this beautiful tapestry. And you can always, go seeking down below in the description the Pinterest pin that I'm following. I have down below the link, or you can always, pause this video and take a screenshot of this beautiful wallflower.